professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chance with a professional. When smart is all wood. A chance with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chance with a professional. When smart is all wood.
Do you think that Baba Obasanjo could be on the street while these Boko Haram people are doing what they are doing?
The objective of the private organization is slightly different from...
Nigeria is the most important country
of education. The collapse of culture in Nigeria. Even with cheating, we can't pass. We've not done enough. There's still more. Join us.
And you never regret that you did.
Today on the show, we are going to be discussing something refreshingly different. We are going to be talking to a great teacher, someone I look at as a great inspiration to the women. The special introduction is going to come after the short break, but I can assure you it is an episode you do not want to miss any second. Don't go anywhere. We'll take on a short break and we'll be back. You're still watching the show HR to the Professional, the show designed to x-ray the activities of professional individuals and corporate bodies. Like I mentioned to you in my introduction, today we have another wonderful professional, if I may put it that way, all the way from the United States of America. This is a woman who has, if you ask me, also paid her dues, especially when you talk about women empowerment. She goes around the world mentoring people, talking to people on how to be better individuals and of course greater citizens. But she has a passion for women empowerment. She is indeed the Chief International Consultant and of course the Chief Educational Consultant for Corporate Warrior Consulting, an organization that is based in the United States of America. But like I said, she's done a lot, especially on the continent of Africa. So join me now as I welcome to the show Dr. Lavonda Brinkley. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
All right, my pleasure. Now, reading your biography, I just had to ask myself to pause because if we begin to talk about your achievements, perhaps 10 episodes of this show might not be able to cover that. But I got so fascinated, looking at a couple of things you've done, especially on the continent of Africa, and in particular Nigeria. And I'm wondering where the energy is coming from. Looking at you, you are nothing less than 50. And looking at your work, it looks like you're 30. Where's the energy coming from?
Wow, I appreciate that. It's what you said before. It's passion.
Okay.
I look at my skin and I know that I am from African descent. That's obvious.
Yeah.
And I've always had a fascination with wanting to go back. And I say back even though I've never been, but I know that I'm diaspora.
Yeah.
That's where it initially comes from, just wanting to be connected to the families and the ancestry, the country that I never ever knew.
Okay.
But my true passion is for the empowerment of all people, that all people were created for a purpose. We each have a passion for something. Some people have no idea what their passion is because their society or their family of origin has pretty much put that passion out. But it comes from passion.
Yeah. Okay. Passion. That's one thing that we lack all over the world as we speak.
Yes.
The craze for money, for wealth, has kind of blindfolded practically most people all over the world from striving towards working according to what they are passionate about.
Yes.
And that has brought about a lot of mediocrity. If we're able to get it right with the women folk, I think we are going to make a difference. And I look at what's happening all around the world, violence, we have terrorism everywhere. And up until recently, especially with the recruitment of some young girls by ISIS, we've had the bulk of this violence perpetrated by the men folk, who essentially are children of women. And one thing that comes to mind is, if we have mothers who are able to raise their kids up, listening to them, understanding that there's a difference between right and wrong, we may not have gotten to where we are. And that's why I want to know what your take is on motherhood and the impact or influence of women on both their children and, of course, their spouses.
You're exactly right. Women, we did give birth to the men.
Yeah.
And we are responsible for the men. You all have to remember that too. I think the problem is that it's not knowing who you are, not being able to stand and come forward with authenticity. And this is why the global women's empowerment movement is so important today, because of just that. When an individual understands that there is value in their life, they are able to pass that on to their children. They're able to walk in that at work, in their communities. But most people have no idea who they are. They're not passionate about anything. They don't realize life has purpose or value. As mothers, we need to be able to look at our children not as little boys and little girls, but as people who were born to make a contribution to the greater good of the world, to be able to serve others. And this is, again, where empowerment comes in transformational leadership. As mothers and as fathers, we need to realize that we have that ability to transform the minds of our children, to put them on the right path, to set them in the right direction. But we like that. The company that I represent, Corporate Warrior Consulting, that's one of our main missions, transformational leadership, which means to capture the hearts of those that we lead, whether it's at work, on the job, in the community, but most importantly, in our homes.
There's something that you said that really strikes me. When parents begin or continue to look at their children as kids, it, if you like, negatively influences their decisions and their actions, because subconsciously or unconsciously they begin to see themselves as kids.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm wondering, how can we begin to get women in particular, now that we are more into women empowerment, to ensure that they have a limit, they have a cutoff? Because I've been to so many homes where mothers still treat a 20-year-old, for instance, like he or she is just a baby. So how can we consciously begin to get women to think in that direction, that look, you have a responsibility to bring up your child to become a responsible adult?
You just said it. That's it. We look at the word responsibility. Two root words, respond and ability. Responsibility is the ability to respond to whatever the situation is. When mothers realize that they have to become responsible in the home, not just as a role, but as a function, and teach our children that they have to be responsible able to respond to the decisions that they make, to the circumstances around them. I'm going to give you an example. Last week I met two sisters from Uganda.
Okay.
They live here in this the Washington D.C. area. They are both business ladies. One has a TV show that airs, I think, about 3 times per week.
Okay.
Her 12-year-old daughter is the producer.
Okay.
She's teaching her children at a very young age how to be responsible, how to feel value. Who would think in terms of a 12-year-old producer? When it's your child, you involve your child in your life, in your family business, in the running of the house. When my children were able to say grace at a year or so old, you didn't eat unless you made a contribution. So it may be saying, thank you, God, for the food. It might be laying the spoon on the table if they were too young, but they could toddle, or just laying the napkin. But we have to make sure that our children understand we are just not here to provide for them materially.
Sure.
They have to be responsible. And that responsibility, that mindset is passed on at work, at school, in the community, in the church. But we have to teach responsibility. We have to show them that their life is valuable, and then we hold them accountable.
Well, you can say that again. We have to teach our children how to be responsible. As a matter of fact, if you do not love yourself, I wonder how you are going to be able to give love. Therefore, the teaching begins at home, and the mothers have the primary responsibility to begin that journey. We'll take a short break and we'll be back. Please don't go away.
Chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. When smiles is so good. A chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. When smiles is so good.
Do you think that Baba Obasanjo could be on the stage while these Boko Haram people are doing what they are doing?
The objective of the private organization is slightly different from...
Nigeria is the most important country
On education, the collapse of culture in Nigeria. Even with cheating, we can't pass. We've not done enough. There's still more. Join us.
And you never regret that you did.
You're welcome back. You're still watching A Chat to the Professional, and my guest this week, a special one, from the United States of America, Dr. Lavonda Brinkley, the Chief International Consultant, the Chief Educational Consultant for Corporate Warrior Consulting, an organization based in the United States, with a passion for women empowerment. And this particular episode has been dedicated to mothers, to see how we can encourage them to make our men, both children and husbands, or if you like as well, boyfriends, become responsible individuals. Dr. Brinkley, at the Corporate Warrior Consulting, you've done a couple of things. I mentioned when I was introducing you on this show that you did something in Abuja, Nigeria. What did you take out from that engagement with Nigerian women?
Okay. I realized that the women administrators of the Federal Capital Territory administrators are extremely concerned about the state of the women in Nigeria. They are concerned about them economically, and they are concerned about them in the community and their influence on the youth. The ladies came here several times, but on one particular trip, we went into the community just outside of Washington, D.C. And we observed women who had built, we actually went into the homes of women that had built houses through Habitat for Humanity with their own hands, and seeing how happy as we walked the streets and seeing these families. We actually went to observe programs where the grandmother had been in the program, and then her daughter had gone through this program successfully, and now the granddaughter, and we see the empowerment through 3 generations. But I think my favorite was the youth build program. With this program, young men who had been living in the streets, never finished high school, they now were in a program to get their high school diploma and learning through building and building houses. We saw the apartment building that even some of them would live in. And I think there were some handicap units. Also, I was moved because those very women were helping the women who lived out in the bush just outside of Abuja to become entrepreneurs. They brought with them for us as gifts shea butter. These women had bought their own pressing machines, making their shea butter. And because at Corporate Warrior Consulting, we're very passionate about the whole person, or the agency that we're working with, the government entity or the corporation. So we just don't stop at what we do in the training. Last week, I met a very successful lady from Ghana who has now, she's bringing on these entrepreneurs who are in the shea butter business. And to watch these women, and she's interested in women in Nigeria as well. Then to see footage where one of these women now owns her own restaurant because she's making 4 to 5 times a day doing her own shea butter business. She could take that money to begin another dream. When young boys and young girls see this spirit in mothers, it's mentorship, it's modeling, it's saying, I can do this too. My mother now has her business. Look at what she's doing. Look at what she's providing for the family. And think of what it does for that man, that husband or that boyfriend, who can go into the marketplace and be very proud of his woman and what she's doing, as opposed to being under his feet, as women traditionally are, or just listening to him, or tolerating all the other women that he has in his life. He's now seeing strength. And then he can replicate even what he's seeing in his wife. Those children replicate that in their lives. It's very, very powerful when a mother can stand up. And when we look at women's empowerment, we're talking about leadership. Leadership being, I think I alluded to it before, you can be a leader in your own home. You can be a leader if you're on the street selling whatever. You are your CEO for that company who's out selling whatever, maybe on the street corner. But we have to begin to value what we have in our hands, the gift that we have, the passion that's burning in our hearts, and being willing to pass that on and to be able to capture the hearts and care about the very people that we are out here serving.
You know, this is quite instructive because it's also a part of the campaign that I've tried to carry on. Corruption, eradication of corruption, dignity of labor, which is what you just talked about. How can we begin to change the mindset of an average modern girl that there's no dignity in labor, that what you cannot get with your education or with your knowledge, you can get with your body? How can we begin to change that mindset that tells our mothers that you need to educate your girl child in such a way and manner as to understand that a man can only give you so much and for so long, but what you have up here remains with you forever. So
let me tell you what your country in particular, and you know, Nigeria is, I think, I was told that there are more PhDs in Nigeria than any other country in the world. I think I can even go to your tribe, even your tribe. There are over 250,000 PhDs that have come out of Nigeria. You are educating your people in a way that other people are not.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is the absence of the middle class, where we have those who are educated and who are teaching their children that you must get an education. Every Nigerian that I personally know, the children are educated. The children are expected to be educated. We have to be able to get this to the more common people, to the lower class people. We have to be willing to invest in these people. This is where corporate warrior consulting can come in as well.
Okay.
We want to be able to partner and collaborate with the government and with corporations in Nigeria and other emerging companies or other African countries, nations, to say, let's invest in those people who do not have access to the education.
Yeah.
I even have an institute, the Institute of Empowerment that I'm the CEO and founder of, that collaborates with Corporate Warrior Consulting. We even have a high school degree program with an American accreditation so that people even in Africa can get that high school diploma. Because once a person becomes educated, particularly with a high school diploma, or initially with a high school diploma, all of a sudden there is this desire. They begin then to burn to say, I want to do better. I can do better. I achieved this. But we have to get a buy-in from the government and from corporations. I personally, with the collaboration of Corporate Warrior Consulting and the International Institute of Empowerment, we do transformational leadership development, transforming the mind, touching the heart, women and community empowerment, and executive coaching, which means we work with those leaders of government, we work with those leaders of corporation to get those leaders to transform their mindsets, to evolve into that 1% of the people who care about the commoner right along with the royalty, and can be as comfortable with the commoner as he or she is with royalty.
Okay.
This is what we have to do. Get the buy-in from the government and corporations to reach back and help the other people.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, time is no longer on our side, but a quick one in 60 seconds, or perhaps less. What would be your message, for the young women out there who are watching you and who probably want to be like you someday?
I would say, just do it. I'm a little country girl who descended from slavery. I was born into Jim Crow. I survived it. I'm a survivor. The oldest of 5 children, very poor family, but I'm a survivor. I never gave up. I never gave in. I didn't look at my situation and say, oh, poor me. I'm a poor black girl. And even in America, when I grew up, the gender difference was very evident. There were things I could not do because I was a girl. I want to say that although there is many women, slightly more in the world than men, but only 22% of us are in leadership position. Most of our leaders, 78% globally, whether the government, our churches, nonprofits, whatever, 78% are men, even though the women are known to be more nurturing, more caring, and even bosses say that women are more effective in leadership. You can do it. And there are a lot of Nigerian women in particularly who are doing it and doing it very, very well. You can do it.
Okay, Dr. Lavonda Brinkley says you can do it.
You can do it.
And I believe you can actually do it. That's the much time would permit on the interview segment. I'll see you on the other side to wrap up this show, but not without saying a big thank you for joining us this week on the show.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I've enjoyed so much spending this time with you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Alright viewers, I'm afraid as much time would permit on the show today, Chat to the Professional, and you will agree with me that Dr. Brinkley has actually not just gone around the world but made a great impact on people, both young and old. If you listen to her carefully, you will understand that in her is a woman with passion, a woman full of energy, a woman who is desirous to return to her roots, Africa, a continent she so much respects and hopes to get back to someday. Come next week, God willing, we shall have another professional of note come talk to us about an issue of national importance. And of course, as we keep striving for greatness for our dear nation and the continent of Africa, do not forget that come November 7th, 2015, we shall be celebrating the 15th anniversary of this show. Details will be coming your way as the days go by. Till next week when I come your way, remain Martin Sobu saying stay blessed, and I'll see you again next week.
Chats with a professional. Chats with a professional. With Martin Sobu.